Welcome back. In this lesson, we open up the computer and meet the four parts that make it run. By the end, you'll know what the CPU, the RAM, the motherboard, and the power supply each do, and you'll be able to read your own machine's specs from the command line. This is core knowledge for the CompTIA A+ exam and for every Helpdesk call you'll ever take. Open any desktop and, past the cables, you'll always find the same team. The CPU does the thinking. The RAM holds whatever you're working on right now. The motherboard is the big board that connects everything. And the power supply feeds the whole machine with electricity. Learn these four and the inside of a PC stops being a mystery. The CPU, or Central Processing Unit, carries out the instructions that make programs run. 3 words matter. Cores are independent workers inside the chip, so more cores help with multitasking. Clock speed, measured in gigahertz, is how many cycles of work it does each second, so higher is generally faster. And the socket is the shaped slot it drops into, which must match the CPU exactly. Because the CPU works so hard, it gets hot. That's why it always sits under a heatsink and fan, or sometimes a liquid cooler, to carry the heat away. A golden rule for the workshop: never power on a PC with the cooler taken off, because the chip can overheat in seconds. If a machine keeps shutting down, cooling is one of the first things you check. RAM, or Random Access Memory, is fast short-term memory. Picture it as your desk. The bigger the desk, the more you can have open at once. RAM is volatile, which means it's wiped the instant power is lost, and that's why unsaved work disappears in a crash. We measure it in gigabytes. Desktops use full-size DIMM modules, laptops use the smaller SODIMM. How much RAM is enough? 8 gigabytes is a sensible minimum and 16 is comfortable for most office work. Here's a pro tip: install RAM in matched pairs to turn on dual-channel mode, which lets the CPU reach the memory faster. On a slow PC, adding RAM is often the single cheapest upgrade that makes the biggest difference. The motherboard is the big circuit board that everything else plugs into. Its chipset manages the traffic between the CPU, the memory, and the devices. It holds the slots, the CPU socket, the RAM slots, and PCIe slots for cards like a graphics card. Boards come in sizes called form factors. ATX is the full-size standard, Micro ATX is smaller, and Mini ATX is the tiny one. The power supply unit, or PSU, turns wall power into the steady low voltages the parts need. Its wattage rating, say 550 watts, is the most power it can deliver, so a gaming PC needs more than an office one. It connects with a big 24-pin plug, a CPU power plug, and SATA plugs for drives. And the safety rule you must never forget: never open a PSU. Its capacitors can hold a dangerous charge even when unplugged. You don't need a screwdriver to read your specs. Open PowerShell and ask Windows directly. Type get-cim instance win32 processor to see your CPU name, its number of cores, and its clock speed. Then get-cim instance win32 physical memory shows your RAM capacity and speed. You can also type system info for one big report. Let's recap. The CPU thinks, the RAM holds your live work, the motherboard connects everything, and the power supply feeds it all. Remember, RAM is volatile, and you must never open a PSU. Board sizes are ATX, Micro ATX, and Mini ATX. Your task before the next lesson: run the 2 get-cim instance commands, write down your CPU name, cores, clock speed in gigahertz, and total RAM in gigabytes, then say whether your machine uses DIMM or SODIMM and how you can tell. See you next time.